Whether you had your job for one day or 20 years, 2025 could be the year you quit. Over 100,000 people quit the government every single year. But 2025 is probably going to be a little bit different. And even though quitting might mean less pay and less benefits, you're still going to do it. Let's find out why. Number one is fear of the unknown. Every video or article out there is talking about reducing the government, layoffs, firing people. And it has many of us paralyzed, on the sidelines wondering what's going to happen. Is now the best time to apply for a government job? Maybe I should just hold off and wait. And what that means for you, as all these people are on the sidelines, that means less competition for you. The federal government employs over 2 million people across the world. And most of them are worried about a restructuring happening within their agency or a reduction in force, a rift hitting their office or their agency. So if you're eligible to retire, that's an option. They might go ahead and retire. But if you just join the federal government, one of the main reasons you did this is because of the security and the stability. Well, it doesn't look that stable right now. Not with this political uncertainty. But what I would tell you is if you haven't hit your 5-year mark, I wouldn't quit. 5 years, you're fully vested in the pension. At least try to cross over that 5-year mark before you decide to give up. If you look at the attrition rate in the federal government, one of the highest percentages are people with less than 5 years. Don't join that number. At least get a benefit from the time, effort, and energy that you served already in the government. But what if they get rid of the pension? This is another argument that people love to bring up. What if they get rid of the pension? They're going to get rid of Social Security. They're going to get rid of the federal pension. Even if they got rid of the pension tomorrow, if you're in the federal government today, you would be grandfathered in. Why? Because that's how the government operates. If you look at the past, every time they changed their pension system, they grandfathered people that were entitled to that older pension system. Look at that CSRS. It's a wonderful pension system. It's probably about 3 times better than FERS. That took place in 1987. So if you were in the government before 1987, they would still honor you for CSRS. You would still have that pension. And if you look recently in the military, while I was in the military, they changed the pension. It was 50%. After 20 years, you would get 50% of your base pay. And while I was in the Army, they switched it to 40%. But I joined in 1999. So I kept the old pension, which in my opinion was way better. But this is how the government typically operates when it comes to grandfathering people in. The second reason is reduced telework and remote work. If I were a betting man, I would place a large wager that this telework and remote work, it's going to be scaled back. We're going to be doing it a lot less. And it's not only because President Trump. Look at the Biden administration. There was a huge growing support to bring federal employees back into the office. They don't like telework. They have an idea that when you're teleworking, you're not really working. But more than that, they want to stimulate those economies. They want people back on the trains. They want people back in the restaurants, back at the dry cleaners. They want that probably more than anything. About half of the federal workforce is eligible for telework, and 10% of the workforce, they're working 100% remote. But the perception is still out there among executive leaders, among CEOs, that that's not the same type of work. Unless we can put workers in a cubicle farm and have somebody oversee them typing away at their keyboard, that's the only thing that actually counts as real work. Now, this is going to impact you negatively in 2 different ways. Number one, your most valuable resource, which is your minutes and hours, your actual time, that's going to be stripped away because you're going to be preparing for the commute and then you're going to be going on the commute. So that's a big negative. The second thing is the money. It doesn't matter how you get to work, you're spending money to get there. Whether that's spending money on dry cleaners, whether that's spending money on the gas and the car repairs to get you to the office or to get you to the train station, whatever it is, more money will be coming out of your pocket and you will not be getting recuperated. That money, you're not going to see that being compensated anywhere within your pay plan. So if you can find another job out there, let's say in the private sector or even lower levels of government, say state, county government, and they offer telework or remote work, even at a pay reduction, I would say go for it, because you'll never get those minutes and hours back into your life. So that's more valuable in a lot of situations than money can be. The third reason is better pay in private sector. This makes a lot of sense because I believe that people will continue to go where they're compensated best. So if they're going to pay 25% more over here, chances are you're going to be attracted to going over there. Now in the DC area, a lot of people jump back and forth between public sector and private sector. But when we're talking about private sector in DC, a lot of times we're talking about defense contracting. So you're still supporting the government, but it's not a full-time federal employee status, right? So the contractors, sometimes they can afford to pay you higher salaries than the government because they're not giving you a pension. As soon as your contract is complete and they don't have any use for you, they're going to kick you to the curb with your 401k and say, figure it out. Now in the federal government, they have that benefit of having a federal pension. So the pay is not always going to line up. In some cases, though, the government will actually pay more. So you have to kind of figure out where are your skills at. If you have skills in IT, you probably can get paid a lot more in a defense contracting company. But if you don't have those, if you're just largely administrative, then maybe government is the best place for you when it comes to your salary. But if you do decide to leave your federal government job, I would make sure you have at least 3 years in. Because in that situation, if you're on the competitive service, then you can be easily reinstated back into the federal government if you have a change of heart later down the road. The fourth reason is leadership. Leadership is always a mixed bag. From an amazing leader to an absolutely toxic leader, you never really know what you're going to get. But what's notable about 2025, the president is going to appoint 4,000 people. And this is every president. There's about 4,000 political appointees. They're going to be leading the way when it comes to the federal agencies. Now, he's not going to do this all by himself. He's going to appoint other political appointees to do it for him. But it always blows my mind when a sitting president talks about the deep state or the administrative state. Their leaders are leading the agency, so they can pivot and change it any way they want. And these individuals that they have appointed, if you're a political appointee, you have no civil service protections. So the president can snap his fingers and fire whoever he wants and then put somebody else in that position. So they're leading the entire government. So the fact that you're complaining about bureaucrats or government employees in these agencies, you have leadership there that you appointed. Have your leadership deal with that. Now, when it comes to career level SESs, senior executives, they do have civil service protections. So those are a little bit more difficult to get rid of. With new leadership, they're going to have another vision. So let's say you were going over here to the left for the last several years. Well, then all of a sudden you have to do a 180. Now you're going to the right. Maybe you don't like that. Maybe you don't like your leader's personality. Maybe there's conflicts, there's disagreements. That's another reason why people might end up quitting their job. But leaders in the government, they're going to come and go. The political winds are going to change direction all the time. What you have to ask yourself is, what is the best for you in this current situation? What should you be focused on? What action should you be taking in order to achieve what's in the best interest of you and your family, right? Maybe that's not the federal government, and this is the time to go ahead and jump into the private sector. Look at entrepreneurship. Is that for you? Is that going to achieve your goal? Take a step away from social media and the political drama that's always in your face. Otherwise, you're going to continue to get stressed out and anxious over things that you do not control. Continue to focus your efforts on what you do control. If you are still looking for a federal government job, you could be easily throwing away money by picking one job over another job. The two jobs could look very similar, but they're not. The differences are in the job announcement. If you want to know more about that, I want you to watch this video next. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.